Yes, I was still very much in the corporate world. And I went to work one morning and my boss called me in for what I thought was a meeting for me to bring him up to speed with what has been happening. But by the end of that meeting, I was jobless. He told me there's been some restructuring happening and they didn't know how to tell me. You know, when someone calls you in for a meeting and you come in with this big smile in your face, and the look on their face, I could tell something was wrong. But I thought it was something we could fix, you know. I'm like, anyway, whatever I do is good fixed. So when he told me there's restructuring happening and they didn't know how to tell me, I already knew. Before he said the next word, I already knew what was happening. So he said, sorry, we have to let you go. And in that moment, I felt my world shattered into tiny little pieces, you know. And he said, no, don't worry, we can write your recommendation later. Whatever he said after that didn't register. I'm just sitting there like, what? Because I didn't see retrenchment coming. I did not see layoff coming. My boss used to tell me plans like 5 years ahead of time, things we're gonna do in 2 years, So I was relaxed, I was fine. And one morning, it was all gone. And I remember thinking to myself, oh my God, what next? I didn't even have a plan B, you know, and plan B didn't have me either. I was like, I'm employed, you know? I'm employed, and I had plans to climb the corporate ladder to the very end. And just while I was still at the very beginning of it, someone snatched the ladder from underneath me. And I remember thinking to myself, I don't deserve this. I'm too young for this. You know, I was entitled and ignorant and angry. But that was a pain talking. And I could remember thinking, a few people at work, I'm like, you've been here for how long? Why me? I'm just coming in. So I actually had a couple of people in mind like, you've been here for longer than me. I think you should have been the one, you know, to be retrenched. But nonetheless, it happened to me. And you know that experience when you buy a particular mark of car, you start seeing that car everywhere. Anyone ever had that experience? I didn't know how many people were wearing smartwatches until I got a smartwatch. Now I see it everywhere. It happens. And this is where I'm going with that. So because I had been retrenched, news about retrenchment on TV would jump on me. If I turned on the radio, I would hear news about retrenchment. So I became very curious, like, oh wow, this didn't just happen to me. And I remember at the time there was a company that was retrenching about 2,500 employees. Within a space of like 2 to 3 years, when they made the announcement, I was blown away. I was like, how can an organization get rid of this many people and still survive, you know? And I remember literally going on Google and typing, how do organizations continue to thrive when they let go so many people? I wanted to know, and at least I wanted to know how my boss was coping without me, you know? So I typed in that question on Google, and it took me on a path that I did not imagine it would take me. So for the first time, I came across concepts like artificial intelligence, automation, robotics, and all of these. I'm like, okay, there's an entire world out there that I was not aware of. An entire world in the world of tech that I had not been paying attention to. Mind you, up to that point, the only technology that I could say I knew would be to sit on my laptop at work, send emails, work. The only technology I knew would be to receive phone calls, make phone calls. There was nothing beyond that. I wasn't even thinking anything tech. And I'm here reading about these processes now that are apparently replacing people at work, softwares that are replacing people at work. Like I said, I was blown away. So I kept digging myself deeper and deeper into that rabbit hole. Mind you, I have no background in tech, zero. And also, I'm not an academician by any stretch of imagination. Like, I don't have a degree. Hello? It's time for some people to leave the room. What is she doing here? She doesn't have a degree. Anyway, so all of these thoughts at the back of my mind, I'm like, there's a whole new world out here. And I became very fascinated and intrigued, and I started writing about this on social media, how the impact of technology in the world of work, the impact of technology in our lives. And you know, social media could become like a place where you're testing your ideas. Even though I didn't know I was testing my idea, I just was looking for a place to sort of release the frustration and the pain I was feeling. So I was writing about it on social media. And people became very intrigued and would ask me questions as though I was the expert in the house. Meanwhile, I was just as clueless as everyone. And I realized that so many people were intrigued about this. And I thought to myself, I think someone should write a book about this. Again, because of my background, I was like, I don't think that someone would be me. In a million years, I didn't think that someone would be me. So that was a thought. Someone should write a book about this. But I disqualified myself. I said, oh my God, you don't have a tech background. You are not educated. Your English is so broken. You have to pick the pieces and put together before people can understand what you're saying. So these were the conversations I'm having in my head. But you know, when an idea has taken hold of you, if you don't do it, you sort of become miserable. The idea to write a book would not leave me. So eventually I was like, okay, it's fine, I'm gonna do it. And I thought to myself, what better title than disrupt yourself or be disrupted? Because I was here minding my business, and my boss disrupted my life. Had no clue how much he really disrupted my life. And I wanted to have these conversations for people to start asking themselves difficult questions that perhaps if I was asking myself, I would have been much more prepared for the layoff. Questions like, how is technology changing my industry or my business or wherever you are? Will I still be relevant in the next 5 to 10 years as a business or as an individual? These are questions that I wanted people to ask. How can I leverage technology to stay relevant? What are the new skills I need for this changing world of work? What's the mindset shift I need to be able to stay relevant, And by the time I graduate, if you're a student, will I still be relevant for the marketplace? It takes 4 years to get a degree, and the world is moving so fast. What are the opportunities in the digital age? These are questions that I wanted to drive, and here's a short extract from my book. We live in a world where change has changed. Change used to be gradual, but change is now rapid and exponential. I would actually say it's beyond exponential. What we're seeing with artificial intelligence currently is beyond exponential. It's a quantum leap, I would say. And so the conversations about technology is no longer reserved for tech experts. Hello? It's no longer reserved for policymakers or IT guys, because we are all impacted by this technology, and it is time for each and every one of us to join the conversation. And that still is my reason for being here, being without a tech background, being without a degree. That is my reason for being here, because we can no longer allow under the IT guys, the tech experts, to drive the conversation, okay? It is no longer business as usual. The rapid pace of technological change that is happening in the world today brings with it a new kind of challenges. And as a leader, unless you acknowledge these challenges, and comprehend these challenges, it is imperative for you to have to acknowledge and comprehend and understand that the challenges today are different from what they used to be maybe a decade ago, even 5 years ago. So we have now entered in an era where digital businesses, you have to have digital transformation as part of your business strategy. It has to be ingrained in your DNA, an enterprise DNA. Leadership in the age of disruption. The truth is that disruptive events, they don't just disrupt businesses, they disrupt leadership as well. If technology is disrupting businesses, it is disrupting leadership. For example, the pandemic disrupting the world, it disrupted leadership. Everyone has to sort of rethink, reposition themselves, think out of the box, do things differently. And so there's need for new skill sets, shift in organizational structures, and changes in how businesses interact with customers. These are the new set of challenges and requiring new set of skills. Digital disruption requires that leaders should be agile, innovative, collaborative, and constantly learning to be able to stay relevant. And so if the business is going digital, leaders cannot afford to stay analog. You are disrupted. It is no longer a question of if you are disrupted, but the question of how much the disruption that is happening, either within your life or within the business. Okay? Because disruption is unavoidable. It can be technology disruption, it can be life disruption, like in my case. It can be all sort of disruption, career disruption, business disruption, but none of us sitting in this room can avoid disruption. But the good news is that you cannot go to the next level without disruption. There is no innovation without disruption. And so what is digital transformation, which is essentially the core